Okay, AJ, Dr. AJ, you can go ahead and send your request. We are good to go. I'm set up upstairs now, and feel free to join. I'm sure we've lost a few people on this one, but so it goes. Let's see. Great. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday, where I interview thought leaders and other professionals in the wellness field. And hi, Dan. Thank you for coming back all the way from California. It's exciting to see friends and relatives on the Facebook Live, waiting for us to. Oh, here we go. And I think this is going to work. Oops. Here we are. How are you, Dr. AJ?
How are you? You did a great job covering for me for 10 minutes. I am so sorry. I'm on my phone. It didn't work with the computer.
Yeah, I know. And I've had issues with the computer. I've had fine job. Sorry, everybody, you're gonna be in chart. You're gonna listen to our little chit chat here. But yeah, I've tried the computer before, and it's fine by myself. But when I ask someone to join me, there is an issue. So yeah, I think the phone is the easiest for this kind of setup. But it doesn't matter. I did a lot of breathing, and in the diaphragm. So
very good.
I'm super excited to have you here on Facebook Live today. I'm really excited that other people are watching. Today we're talking about posture, the importance of posture, the benefits of having quote unquote good posture. Now I'm all like self-conscious. And I have a lot of clients who ask about posture, and they ask about stretches and things they can do. And I thought, you know what? I got to interview Dr. AJ because you are my colleague, first of all, and you're my chiropractor, and
yes.
You have literally saved my neck and my shoulders and my back many times. So I'm so stoked to have you here. Go ahead. Let's hear it. People want to know about posture. What does it mean to have good posture?
Absolutely. Number one, thank you for having me here, and thank you for everyone for putting up with what you just had to put up with. Everything is at our fingertips, but some people like me are not as good with technology as I should be. But I am much better at talking about posture, so let's get into that. So to kind of put the myth aside, I would have to say there's probably not one perfect posture, except that there is many good postures over a period of time. So to kind of summarize that is that a good posture is one that is always changing. Just like in yoga, you don't just stay in one position the entire time. You move through, and you move through all three different planes of motion. And so posture should be a part of that. If you want to sit forward for a little bit, you can, but just make sure then you come up straight and you sit up correctly, quote unquote. And if you sit to the right, you have to sit to the left. Our bodies don't do well when we overload one certain movement pattern all the time. So most of us will slouch. We'll kind of fall forward. The computer or TV or phone starts to pull us into itself, and we start to adopt this forward posture. That's okay if you're only there for a limited amount of time, but you have to get yourself back out of that. So kind of long story short is that a good posture is one that always changes.
So it's dynamic. I mean, the spine is amazing because, when you think about I like to explain in my yoga practice that the spine is all these joints stacked one on top of another. And they're constantly, readjusting to keep us upright and balanced. Cool. Absolutely. So why is it so important that we have a good posture besides, like pain and stuff like?
So, good posture is important for many different things. One of them, the most important one, is breathing. You kind of talked about that briefly already. But we cannot access the main muscle of respiration, which is our diaphragm, if we're sitting in a poor posture, a slouched forward posture. Also, if we're sitting in that forward posture, it also reduces the amount of blood flow that's moving up and down and throughout the body. So breathing, number one, and blood flow circulation, number two. When we're crouched forward, we could talk about the diaphragm. As your rib cage goes from neutral, sitting up, to compress forward, our diaphragm has nowhere to go because it has to move down into our abdomen. And if there's a lot of pressure in our abdomen, then our diaphragm can't work appropriately. And then so what we're forced to do is we're forced to take this big breath up into our chest, and that also has issues. It's called paradoxical breathing. We start using accessory muscles around our neck. So then it starts to create more neck problems and issues for people just with using the improper muscles of respiration.
That's fascinating. I really hadn't thought about how that kind of chain happens. You know, and I think a lot of people don't think about that. They just know that they're sitting hunched over and that's quote unquote bad. But that's a great answer. That really fills in a lot of information for me about, you know, not just the tightening of the front body, but how the diaphragm actually affects all of that. That is too cool. And well, we'll talk about breath work at a later time. Yeah, and I think this is a really timely thing to talk about because so many people are working from home. The kids are home right now. And I told my son, like, yo, you got to get up and walk around because, like, I really feel like there's oxygen deprivation happening, you know, where he's like in this position 100%. And he's just gonna, you know, pass out in the class or something.
100%. It creates a situation of shallow breathing, which does lead to oxygen deprivation. And, you know, it makes you feel sluggish, makes you feel tired, gives you that groggy feeling, and you're not your best self at that point, especially if you have low O2. One other thing that I want to mention is, as a chiropractor, you know, it's funny, I didn't go to this first and add this to the first on the list, but if we're constantly slouched forward, we're creating a lot of pressure on the front part of our lumbar discs. And so what ends up happening is if you have your spine, you're stacked up nicely right here. If you're always bent forward, think of a wet cake of soap. If I push my hands this way, it's always pushing the soap backwards. And the same thing happens with the spine. If you're constantly tipped forward and you're constantly putting pressure on the back of the spine, you run yourself into a higher risk of having a lumbar disc issue. A herniation, protrusion, we call it derangement, something that involves, you know, the lower back and possibly a sciatic issue, just can be driven by poor posture over a long period of time. I correct people's posture all the time, and magically their back pain and their sciatic pain go away.
You are kind of a magician in that way. Are you seeing more patients that are coming in with kind of postural issues because of all the sitting that they're doing, like over the past year?
Yeah, a lot of people, some people that we're watching here might be victims of working from home. What ends up happening is you went from, and most commonly, a better ergonomic setup at work that was working for you and your body, bring that home, especially being on a laptop or working at your kitchen table. You might have a high stool, you might have a low stool. Things don't fit your body as well. So yes, I have seen more repetitive overuse injuries and syndromes due to that postural and ergonomic overload. Yeah, that it has been a thing. That's kind of one of the few things that have kept my office a little bit busier throughout this time that we're all working through. Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
And so you said you were going to share with us some micro breaks or demonstrate some micro breaks.
Yes. So I'm just going to move the camera back a little bit here. Perfect. And so who's ever watching, you guys, you can do these every now and then. I recommend to do it about every 20 to 30 minutes. The reason being is that scientifically, you run into two categories when you're in one posture for too long of a time. One of them is called creep. That's when you stretch something, you don't stretch it for long enough, and it returns back to its normal resting length. hysteresis occurs after about 30 to 45 minutes of being in a posture that stretches a certain tissue, and then it only comes back like 99%. So we want to make sure that you're not getting into the hysteretic component of overstretching the tissue, because then you start to run yourself downward into a pain syndrome. So that's why I say do these about every half an hour.
Right.
So number one.
I'm going to join you.
All right, number one. No, we're fine. Thank you. I have a helper here because I am technically challenged. Thank God. Is what we call a micro break. These are micro breaks, but this is the actual micro break where you're just going to stand up really tall, take your arms, reach overhead as high as you can go, and you can do this seated if you wanted to, as long as you sit up nice and straight. And then what you're going to do is, I have to get lower because my ceiling's a little low at home, and then you're going to climb the ladder. So you're just going to reach up and switch, and reach up and reach up. And sometimes you might feel a couple pops in your back. Is reaching. And that's the first micro break. You call it climbing the ladder or whatever you want to do. The second one, and I'll show it to you in standing, but we should do this seated, is called Bruger's relief position. So you would inch to the edge of your seat, make sure your feet are below your knees, and what you're going to do is you're going to set your shoulders down and back in your back pocket. So bring them up, back, and down. Take your fingers, spread them out really wide, put them down to your side, and then you're going to turn your hand and arm out as much as you can. Let me bring this down a little bit more. So you're going to go from here, and then you're going to turn. Make sure your armpit stays closed. And then from here, you're just going to tuck your chin in, create a double chin, take a couple quick breaths, and then relax. And then you just reset. I know this looks funny, but just those couple deep breaths and turning those shoulders out really will help to kind of revive your energy in your life during that part of your day.
Cool. So what is that external rotation of the shoulders and of the, that whole, what does that do?
So that helps to open up the chest a little bit. Absolutely. And gets this kind of hunched over position and just reverses it. It stretches out your pec major, your pec mainly, your pec minor. And it just helps open up your chest. Also gets you just to get you out of that position.
Right. Because it's this idea that we're all doing this and we need to balance that posture with the other posture. Okay. So having the arms out and the hands externally rotated can help open up this whole front area, which tends to be shortened on us because of all that. Cool.
Absolutely.
And
also just to kind of
go ahead.
So I want to kind of, unfortunately with this COVID-19 virus, it affects our respiratory system. And a lot of people are vulnerable in that category, whether they have asthma, COPD, or some type of other issue where they just can't get enough air into their lungs. And so a lot of what I find in my office that creates this symptom, not just the asthma, not just kind of the restriction within the lung tissue itself, is the compliance of the rib cage. So we think of this rib cage as almost just a protective barrier over our vital organs like our lungs and our heart. However, if that rib cage does this as we breathe, even as we use our diaphragm, our rib cage should expand laterally. If we lose that lateral excursion over the years of sitting like this over a computer, well, that in of itself reduces our tidal volume, which is the amount of air we can get in and out. And so a lot of times you have these people that come in, the patients that come in with abnormal breathing patterns who can't get enough oxygen on a regular basis, whether they have asthma or whatnot. We work their diaphragm and we mobilize their rib cage. We increase that compliance, and magically they're breathing better. They don't need their inhaler as much, and et cetera. So a lot of it's just physical compliance of how much your lung tissue can expand.
And just the awareness of it. And breathing is actually a really interesting function of the body, because it's one of those functions that's automatic And, you know, we can manipulate it in many different ways. And like the yogic
Yes.
tradition has a whole other line called pranayama, where you just do breath work, and that has various
Right.
outcomes on your health. Um, but I love this attention to the breath, um, and the way you describe it as, you know, not just the diaphragm, but as, you know, the rib cage, the front, back, and side to side. That's what I was going to say. Actually, this is perfect timing. With that first movement,
Yep.
when we're doing this, you're
Yes.
really awakening the side body, the side
Yes.
ribs,
Yep.
because, you know, when I'm teaching my
Absolutely.
yoga classes, I talk about how we just move forward and backwards all day long. Occasionally we turn and then we pull
Right.
out our back and then we're screwed, right? To go pick up a pencil
Right.
from the ground. But rarely do we move sideways, and rarely do we open up the side body. And that opening that up, I love that, just by doing the imaginary climbing. I might, you know, put some feet in there too, just for fun and balance. But
Yes.
that really does a lot to open up the side body, the ribs, and I guess I'm going to use the word to increase your rib compliance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yes. That's why I am a huge proponent of what you do. That's why I'm here. I'm a huge proponent of yoga,
Mm-hmm.
and there there's probably only been one patient that I have not recommended yoga to out of my 10 years of
Yeah,
practice, and that was just because of a surgery that they had to have done, and it wasn't appropriate at the
right.
time. But I pretty much recommend yoga for
Yeah.
everyone. It stabilizes your body. It moves you through all different planes of
Mm-hmm.
motion. And number one, they and number three is that they work on breathing,
Yeah.
and it's breathing through those motions. A lot of us hold our breath when we're working out or when we're doing
Mm-hmm.
yoga, and we have to learn how to let our breath guide us through those
Right.
movements. And people would feel a lot better if that was the case.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah,
that can be the most challenging to actually teach as a yoga teacher, is
sure.
the breath work.
Yep.
But it can be really the most profound and the most rewarding. I mean, I can't tell you how many students
Yes.
have said, I do that, you know, I take those deep breaths before I go to bed, before they go to bed, to help them sleep, or they take a breath. I jokingly say, like, a breath can be the difference between you having a conversation or you exploding in rage, right? Just take a breath. I
Right.
mean, less
Right.
less now, but certainly when I was younger and my kids were, it was really challenging. I was about to say something, I was just take a deep breath, let it go, and then I
Sure.
could get out what I should have said.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
fascinating.
Breath has many uses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
Great. Do you have anything else to add?
I think we've touched on everything that's important, and I feel like if all people do is get up and move every half an hour, do some yoga,
Mm-hmm.
breathe properly,
Mm-hmm.
you add some maybe good diet into that and good sleep, and you're golden. You're healthy.
Yeah,
You're a healthy person.
definitely.
If only all of those things
Oh,
happen, right? If only
just
all
check it off. Just check it off.
yes,
But you know, and
yes,
one of the reasons
yeah,
why I asked you, asked to interview you, is because you're super practical. And we talked about this on the phone
yes,
yesterday, is that so many people want to change and become healthier, but aren't really sure
yep,
where. So that's why we're doing what we do. Um, but
right,
also, it's micro steps, it's baby steps with everything. So if you can, you know, take a break today and climb and do some external rotation with some, I call that garlic breath. You know, that chin tuck, as if someone's talking to you and they have garlic breath. You
yes, yeah,
just I learned that from a teacher of
yep,
mine. I think it's
uh-oh,
hilarious. Or double chin, whatever,
yes,
however you want to cue it. You know,
yep,
just doing those two
yep,
things once today. Start off with once, and then you can add it, and it becomes magically routine if it sticks, you know, and it's that much easier. And then we can
right on.
become our best selves, right?
Absolutely, it's a journey.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah,
So I know I alluded a little bit to this yesterday when I talked to you on the phone, but I would love to have you on again to talk about
yes,
natural movements. I'm starting my
yep,
certification in April about with a company called MoveNats, And I just opened up with the level 1 training. And the first part is all about breathing and breath work. And I thought, yes, finally, you know, people are getting it. As yogis, we're taught that early on. But there's also more to it. I think a lot of us learn diaphragmatic breathing and ujjayi breath, but there's so much more to it. And oftentimes we tend to make things a little complicated. I love the way Wim Hof explains breath work, the Iceman. And I love the way you describe it too, you know, really simple terms, and super effective. Yeah. So I'll have you on in a few more weeks. That I cannot wait, because I know that you have a lot to say about natural movement and building from the ground up.
That is, you got it. That's a large part of our rehab in our office. But yeah, I would love to be a part of that. And I promise I will have this process down by then, and we'll be right on, ready to go.
You know, I think the next time I'm just going to have to say, look, you've got to be on your phone. I can't messing around. I was like, oh yeah, I'll try it on my desktop too. No, that did not work. Round 3, phone, boom, set up. We're good to go.
Okay.
Let's see, what else was I going to say? How can people contact you if they're interested in your chiropractic services? Because what I also like, I love so much about you, but you work with the bones and soft tissue with your ART, which I love and I swear by. And one more thing that I love about you is that if you can't help, you'll say, I can't help you. I'm going to refer you out. Or, yeah, we got this. Of course. I'll see you X amount of times, and then I won't see you again until, you know, life happens and, you know, you got a cranky neck again.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we have a multidisciplinary approach. I don't just crack necks. We work on soft tissue. We also have a physical therapist in our office. So my mind is at the point where each profession has something great to offer and gets people well. And my goal before I graduated and started my own office was, what can I find those pieces in those professions and meld them into my practice, right? So neurology, physical therapy, chiropractic, movement, all these things, and we've combined them. And that's what makes, I think, my office special, is that we take that multidisciplinary approach and not just kind of lock ourselves into, I'm a chiropractor, I do chiropractic, and all you get is an adjustment. So that's what makes us a little different. But if you want to get a hold of us, it's very easy. If you type in Brantford Chiropractor into Google, Muscle and Joint Performance pops right up. Easiest way, just give us a call. You have my information. And we have a Facebook and Instagram page. Wow. More social media to flood your brain with. But yes, so we have both of those too.
Yeah.
So you can get a hold of me if you want to find me. I'm around.
Awesome. Great.
Yes.
So we will be doing this again in a few weeks. Our next speaker, and you might be interested in this too, Dr. AJ, is Becky Martorelli. She's a master gardener, and we're going to be talking about ways to start a veggie garden, things you can prepare now and things you want to think about down the line, because a lot of people are doing gardening, and this is in particular veggie gardening. She's an awesome person. I can't wait to learn more about gardening and planting, because I've got my green thumb going on, and I love the snow, but I'm getting stoked about seeing green and eating tomatoes.
I'll be on that call too.
Sounds great.
Because growing a garden is not as easy as it looks.
No, but Becky will make it, she'll make it easy, even down to like what things you can plant directly into the soil and what things you maybe want to start off seedlings with, and how to check your soil and location. She's a wealth of knowledge, and she's also a little phobic of technology. So I'm going to just be like, this is what you got to do. No, you can't use your desktop.
No options. No options.
Keep it simple, right?
But yes.
All right. So
thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You can feel free. I'm going to edit out the beginnings, and then it will be posted on the Mountain View page. For those of you that are on my newsletter, you will get it emailed to you, and you'll be able to view it on the Mountain View Wellness Facebook page in like an hour or so. Okay. So thank you all for joining us. see us again on March
Thank
10th
you.
with Becky Martorelli, Gardening Tips, and AJ. Dr. AJ will talk to you in a few weeks after that about natural movement.
All right. Be well.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.